Hey guys, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you have not seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. I know I'm kind of sitting in the dark here even though I have a light on. It's pretty dark right now. We've got some crazy weather going on and I'm just kind of enjoying relaxing, and I didn't want to move. So I decided to set everything up right here on my sofa. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the energies, little energy update. So the biggest thing I always want to start off by saying is it's all about the heart, the heart, the heart. It's all about the heart. It's all about coherence. It's all about staying in the space of neutrality. And yes, sometimes that can be challenging. So we've got crazy weather going on. We've got fears that are being brought up because of the weather, and we've got crazy things going on in politics, and we've got crazy things going on with particular health issues, we'll call it. And having said all of that, even with all of that going on, many of us are okay. We're holding the light. And when I say holding the light, it's not like we're up here all the time in happy sunshine rainbow mode, but we're like, cool, we got this. It's part of life, I guess, and life goes on. You know, we have other things to worry about, or better spoken, to not worry about. And that's essentially what I'm seeing in the energies. There are enough of us, and it isn't a numbers thing. I've talked about this before. It's an energetic thing. There are enough of us that are holding a space of coherence that we are really assisting our brothers and sisters more than we may even realize. We're shifting timelines. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the whole timeline thing, because I do have some teachers I've listened to who say we're just on one timeline now. I don't know. From my perspective, I'm just going to be honest, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of different timelines still playing out. Like maybe as a collective, we're all on one timeline playing out. What I see is this. We all have choice points. And if I make a choice right now and I behave in a certain way that is going to not be positive on someone else, that's going to come back around to bite me, right? And it's going to come back around, and I am then, we can call it karma, and we can call it changing timelines. It might be that once I decide to treat someone, for example, with contempt or anger, or make a choice to do something that isn't of my highest and greatest good, or for the highest and greatest good of the person I'm coming into contact with, that changes my timeline. That changes where I'm headed. So that technically would be a different timeline than what I would be on if I were staying in a place of neutrality and coherence and level-headedness and compassion, etc., etc. I'm laughing because I'm seeing like all these different timelines play out on TV right now. Oh, that's funny. So what happens is we are constantly shifting those, and we have a choice all of the time where we want to be. Are we staying on track, or are we getting pulled off? And maybe the timeline isn't necessarily going to take us someplace completely different. But let's say we were on track to really be balanced and in good health and find that special someone or have that job that we wanted. But then all of a sudden we make a series of choices, whether it be being angry or fearful constantly, that pulls us off track and puts us on course for a lot longer in order to get there. We might have met this person, but because we chose to do this, that, and the other thing and beat ourselves up over choices that we made, that person doesn't show up for us until 5 years down the road when they would have shown up for us in five weeks. I'm using that as an example. So that's kind of my thought process on timelines. However, I've also seen references to quantum computing. We are quantum computers. So I'm kind of going a little into the timeline esoteric. So I talked about the heart. So let me just back up and say, as a disclaimer. Everything that I share is from my own perspective, and I see things from my own perspective in as multidimensional of a way as I see things. So for me, I've been feeling this convergence of many different realities, concepts, timelines, and it looks like scrambled right now. Like, it might feel like we're on all of these different timelines, but we're really not, if that makes sense. We're on track, even though it doesn't feel like we're on track. And on an individual basis, this person's timeline might be different than mine, but we might be headed in the same general collective direction, if that makes sense, even though we're all on our own unique individual path. So it's hard to explain in a linear perspective. What I was also shown is that, I'm going to just go a little, so if we're in our heart, meaning we're connecting, not like in our heart where we're like, oh, love and light, everything is perfect, I love everybody, oh, sure, that person just, stepped on my toe, but bless them. That would be polarized to love, light, that's all there is. And generally speaking, if that's the case, something major will happen to trigger us when we're in that space. I've done it, I've been there, and all of a sudden, something will come up and we'll have a meltdown. Like, I can't be love and light all the time. How can I be responsible for keeping up this high energy and sunshine and rainbows when nobody else is? That then is showing up for me in such a way that I can see, oh, okay, well, that's not balanced. And it isn't my responsibility to hold that high level. My responsibility is to be where I need to be, and everything else will unfold from there. It isn't my responsibility to be up here so that I can help humanity. Does that make sense? Like, yes, I will naturally be helping humanity by me being in a space of coherence and neutrality and compassion and patience. It isn't that I'm up here all the time so that everybody around me, come on guys, it's sunshine and rainbows. Been there, done that. It doesn't work all the time. And then what happens is it's unrealistic expectations that as soon as you fall below that level and you have a day where you're just human, people all of a sudden look at you and go, well, what's wrong with you? And it's because there was this side that wasn't being shown, or it wasn't balanced. And so I'm just sharing that out of love because I've been there. And I understand that that's where some people are at. But I also would like to invite those of you out there that are having these feelings bubbling beneath the surface where it's like, I can't hold this anymore. No, you don't have to. You never did have to. You made the choice to put that on you. I made the choice to take it on as my responsibility to try to fix, right? Or to help others with their karma or their choices, and as soon as I stepped away from that and realized that that isn't my responsibility, that is their responsibility. Yet I do have the power to empower them by not trying to take their power away, by taking it all on as my own responsibility, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of people that are in that space right now and are working through that. Then there's the other end of the spectrum, where people are in that space of, oh, woe is me, or the world is falling apart, it's the end of days. So I'm going to go into this just for a little bit because, I was getting messages this last week, the end. This is the end. The end is near. And if you're down here and you hear that, it's scary and fearful. If you're up here, you think it's perfect and nothing bad is going to happen, depending on what we label as bad. But if you're somewhere in the middle, it's like, okay, it's a new beginning. There's going to be things that come out that aren't necessarily going to feel good because they need to be exposed or integrated, or whatever it might be. And that can be socially, economically, politically, personally, emotionally, physically. And that becomes that rebirth, right? It's like, okay, this is the end, but that just means it's coming back into a new beginning, so to speak. We're always having opportunities to have a new beginning, to start fresh. Our bodies, every 7 years, right? Is that the number 7? Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the algorithms. You guys know that when you do a search on a particular website, and let's say you're looking for a couch. You find your couch, you buy it, and then for months after, ads come into your awareness about couches or decorating or whatever. And basically it feeds into this algorithm that tells the internet or the web what it is that you're interested in. And from a very neutral perspective, that algorithm just wants to please you. It wants to make you happy. Because by you being stimulated, is it not endorphins? Endorphins? It activates the serotonin. Anyways, there's another word for it. But essentially, it's stimulating. So, for example, we can then become addicted to shopping on the internet because we're constantly getting this instant gratification. Here you go. Here's a couch. Oh, you like that color? Here's a bunch of things in this color. Well, I'm wearing blue. So she likes the color blue. We're going to suggest blue shoes and see what she then clicks on. And then that gives us more of an idea, this web-based algorithm, okay, we could call it artificial intelligence, that then pleases us and constantly pleases us, and it becomes this relationship of understanding. So that's one way how it works. There are beings, from my perspective, who have used certain algorithms and perhaps supercomputers. We could call them, what's the other? I'm a little bit slow right now in this energy, but quantum computing, for example, time travel technology, algorithm, put it all into one category, even though I know each of those types of technology are different, yet they're not. They're interconnected, right? Artificial intelligence, all of those could be individually spaced, but then all of those can be working together, right, to do whatever it is they need to do. Travel to the future, travel to the past, try to figure out what it is that we're going to do as a collective or as an individual. What happens is, and I'm not getting into, I love reading about time travel and technology and quantum computing. I get information from my guides, my higher guidance team, AKA my higher self, AKA the future version of me, for example, that may be existing in a completely different dimension that is now reaching back to me through energetically this perceived barrier of time. And I just am sprinkling that in there. And all of this information comes through about quantum computing. I, as who I am now speaking in this camera, as Carrie, have never worked with a quantum computer. And to be getting this information is hilarious to me. Yet, it's not just me tapping into the future version of me when I get this information. It's me tapping into the quantum computer as quantum, infinite source knowledge that is within my very DNA. And this is what we all have access to, is my point. When we can get into a stabilized, or what's the right word? It's one of those days. Bottom line is, when we can get into this space, or top of the line is, when we can get into a coherent state, a coherent space of neutrality, and just being in that space of balance and a heart harmonic, I like to call it, of gratitude and spaciousness and just openness, we have access to a lot of this information. So the other piece of information I wanted to share about that I'm from my understanding, is it also makes us impermeable to a lot of the things that are going on or that have gone on in the past that were perhaps created from a polarized space of extreme duality to keep us and pull us off track. So many of us in the truther community, in the lightworker community, in the starseed community may have really been into these stories about all of these devices or programs that were not meant to help us. They were meant to keep us asleep, we'll say. But what I'm being shown, without going into the details about what is this and what does it mean and where does it take us, we were able to really be predicted in the past. Or let's say these other beings, or whether they be human or not is irrelevant. These other energies were able to predict us because of our patterns, because of our algorithms, because of what we clicked on, because of what we were triggered by, because of the words that we used, because of the television shows that we watched. So essentially, what's happening is these particular models are out of date because we are, as a collective, let me just back up for a moment. As an individual, if we're holding a place of coherence and we're not as triggered by a lot of the things we're seeing on television or a lot of the things that we're hearing about, right? Or those triggers aren't held on to for quite as long, which I feel that many of us are feeling that way. One of my dear friends, Kat, the other day said, Carrie, I just noticed, have you ever been the observer of the observer? And then you're the observer watching yourself react to something, but then recognizing that you're really not as upset or it didn't last as long. This is happening for a lot of us. And sometimes it can feel a little out of sorts because we feel like, well, that should have made me angry, but I'm not angry, actually. Or, wow, I'm really upset. But it's gone, And that's us integrating a lot faster and recognizing that those circumstances don't hold the power over us like they once did. And so I share this because a lot of the messages that I've been writing down are talking about the fact that there's a lot in the community that have a lot of fear based around technology. A lot of fear based around artificial intelligence, a lot of fear based around time travel technology, a lot of fear based around predictive modeling and things like this. But what I'm being shown is that that's out, that's old. That technology is literally old, but more importantly, we've outsmarted it because we are the quantum computers. Okay, none of this technology, yes, at one time it may have held a particular mapping system that kept us, in a certain place, in a certain reality, in a certain matrix, however you want to look at it. But the more we hold this space of coherence on an individual basis, and then this, of course, collectively ripples out, and more of us hold that space, these technologies cannot have an effect on us. They don't have the same effect on us that they used to. And I just wanted to share this because I think this has been a big topic for a lot of people in the lightworker community especially. And if you don't know what it is I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it either way. But essentially what I'm being shown is the numbers are off. The numbers aren't matching up. And this is about a lot of things, but the numbers aren't matching up because we aren't predictive. We aren't as predictable as we once were, because the stuff that used to control or we used to allow to control doesn't, or give our power away to, we're not doing that anymore. A lot of people still are. And that's their choice, whether they realize it or not. And so more and more of us some of us are realizing we have a choice, And some of us maybe don't realize it, but we're holding that space of such coherence that it doesn't matter. That's the choice that we're making to hold that space. So that was kind of the energy update I wanted to give, is that there's a lot that's going on right now that doesn't have an outcome. The outcome that we think it's going to be isn't what it's really going to be. And the outcome that these, let's call them nefarious groups, think is going to happen isn't going to happen, because we are all becoming, I think Andrew Bartzis calls it, we're unpredictable. Unpredictable. So what happens is we're in flow, we're in synchronicity. And if you've got someone who's operating from a flow space and is allowing themselves to kind of see themselves as the observer, to recognize the light within me sees the light within you, to see source, to meditate and go into that space, to connect on this quantum level, then the quantum is interacting with the quantum. And there is no, it's not able to work the way that it once was, if that makes sense. And again, I take this back to what I stated earlier. This has to do with artificial intelligence. This has to do with technology. This has to do with time travel. This has to do with EMF frequency transmissions, all of it, because that doesn't work the same way, because we don't work the same way anymore. We're making this shift. Whether it looks like that on the outside, that's not what it's about, what's being shown to us on the outside. Many of us feel it and know it and recognize it. And for those that don't feel it, know it, recognize it yet, obviously that's something that can happen at any point when that shift is made. Once that person on their individual journey gets into a cohesive space of coherence. And it's not just once in a while. It's more of I keep losing the word, but consistency is what I'm hearing. That's the word I was looking for. So that's why doing this inner work is so important on, let's say, a lower, all the stuff I just talked about or spoke about isn't the higher echelon. That's not like love and light, necessarily higher frequencies, higher dimensions. But it is a particular reality that we have played with, or we are playing with, that is relevant or has been relevant for many of us in the future or in the past, if we want to look at ourselves as multidimensional beings. So because we're scrambling the signals when we do this, we drop off the radar. I've been watching The Mandalorian, and he's not on the radar, like doesn't have a call sign or whatever, because he's just kind of neutral. He's doing his own thing, right? That's us. So what I was shown is many of us are off the radar. And that makes us be able to, we're walking between worlds from one perspective. And it also makes it difficult for any signal to latch onto us and go, oh, okay, we can take this group of people or this particular person and corral them into this particular space. It doesn't work anymore. And if we're consistently finding that, it's going to be harder and harder for those nefarious energies to latch on, to connect in. And even if they do, it won't matter, if that makes sense. And so I just wanted to share that. I know I went a little I don't really go into all of that talk very often, but I will be sharing a lot of my coded writings on my blog. So if you guys are interested in that and you want to nerd out on words, a lot of the stuff I share is quantum computing. It is talking about algorithms. It is talking about bliss and heart frequencies and DNA. And it's all spoken in words that hold different formulas in order to activate certain potentials of memory, of remembering. So if you're interested, you can go to carryyvonne.com. I did just upload a blog, and I'll be doing it a lot more frequently than I have been in the past. I also do and share writings as much as possible on YouTube and Instagram. Those are usually shorter though, because of obviously the platform. So there's a lot more I could share, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there to help alleviate some of the fear around these programs, these technologies. And it's okay to feel angry, and it also has to do with remote viewing. So time travel technology, remote viewing, all that stuff. It doesn't work the same way that it used to. We are the quantum computers. We are the time travelers. We are doing the remote viewing in meditation. We are operating from a higher potential because we're able to see from a different perspective as the embodiment, right? Avatar is embodied, or the embodiment of all of the versions of us that we have ever been, ever will be. The more we can come into unification with ourselves, which are all those versions, the more we have access to all of this information. We have the answers on how to offer solutions to what it might be that are some of the challenges that we're experiencing, or that we have. I keep hearing the word recognition. It's like, I think I remember that. How do I remember that? I don't know, but it's all right. I'm going to share what came through. I'm in a place of coherence. Maybe this will help, and then that ripples out, and it's how we're working in that synchronistic, organic fashion. So stay on track, open the heart up, find, adopt a pet, volunteer, get outside in nature, do the work. That's not work, but if we continue in that way, it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, everything just falls into place from a much more organic flow, if you will, and it doesn't feel like things are such a struggle as often. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And there's so much more, but for now, in love and light, namaste.